So Dr. Parthsarthi had taken me to his house and they first fed me, and he put me in touch with the president of the Indian Association, the Indian Students Association, and he helped me find an apartment. I remember uh, they had different campuses in SUNY Buffalo, State University of New York, SUNY, SUNY, Buffalo. They had three campuses. The main campus, then there was one more smaller campus, and then the larger new campus was there. Uh, and my college, my school, the business school was in the main campus. So about 2-3 blocks away from my school, the School of Business, I got a room for rent upstairs, uh, and it had two rooms upstairs. One was rented by a postdoc, Orissa uh, professor. He had come to do his postdoctoral work here, and the other room was shared by me and another student in business school called Satya Narayana Pratipati. Of course, he now finished and then he became a professor, and then I hear he went back to India to teach to Hyderabad or something. So we were living there, we were sharing one room. It was a small room, almost those attic rooms, where the both sides the roof will go like this, and our beds were there. And there was one bathroom for three of us. The rent was $60 a month. The owner lady was a very old lady. Her name was Mrs. Palmer, and she used to live downstairs. And she had a phone connection that was one connection downstairs and one upstairs. And since we were three of us, she said she never gets any calls. So if the phone rings, we have to pick it up. If we don't pick it up in 4 or 5 rings, then she would pick it up. Those days were those old black phones with the circular dialing. There was no digital dialing. And if by accident the call was for her, then we were supposed to bang our foot on the floor. It was all wooden floor. And then she would pick it up from downstairs, and then we would keep it. So of course, most of the time, I think only she made calls if she wanted to talk. Nobody would call her. And once we even went to Pittsburgh Temple, and she came with us. She wanted to see the Pittsburgh Temple. I remember that one thing. And in that room, I had to go to my business school. I had to walk maybe, I don't know, half a mile to 1 mile. And because it was winter and Buffalo is known for snow and ice, although I had a nice boots, the sidewalk was always with ice. And I had to walk on that ice to reach my school, about half a mile to 1 mile. And there are quite a few times I have fallen down like straight. I would be walking and fall down straight on my back. And that was a very new experience. Of course, I was young and I really didn't get hurt in that. So went to Buffalo. One Dr. Arun Jain of marketing was my professor, under whom I had the assistantship. But within a year, as I told you, I got a fellowship at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So I said it's better to go for the fellowship than the assistantship. And while I was in Buffalo, Dr. Parthasarathi, I remember they had taken me, Prema auntie had taken me to the grocery store and bought me a lot, whatever I might need for the first 1 week, groceries. their daughter, youngest daughter, I don't remember her name, Shri or somebody. She was also with us in the shop, and Prema auntie said I should get one of those lotions. It was called rose milk, and you had to pump. It was like a nice, cute bottle, pink color, rose color. And so I went to pick up one, and this girl, she was probably 5, 6 years old. She said, "Oh, uncle, we have two at home. You can take one of that." I said, "No, thank you." But that generosity speaks. They don't know who I am, and they took me to their house. And Dr. Parthsarthi, I remember, was working in a research center called Roswell Park. Roswell Park Cancer Research. And before I left for Urbana, unfortunately during my second semester, their daughter, youngest daughter, they had 4 boys before her. The youngest daughter had gone for a birthday party in somebody's house, backyard. It was a swimming party or something, and the school had taken them the school bus. And at the end of it, they were all walking, and the children, of course, were walking on the side of the swimming pool. And everybody went, and this girl happened to go last, and she slipped and fell into the swimming pool, and she didn't know swimming. And after everybody had gone and sat in the school bus for the teacher to take them back and drop at school, so parents would come and pick up, the teacher had counted and one was missing. So they said maybe somebody is still there. They went there, and it was too late. She was already dead and floating in the water. And I remember I went to their house, Dr. Parthsarthi's house, and I stayed with them for 3-4 days, helping them out with. I had bought a car by then. There was one Mr. Dr. Adappa and Mrs. His name is Sumitra Adappa. He was again a food scientist in one of the corporate companies, and Sumitra ji was doing her coursework. So his work would get over only by 9 o'clock. So after school, Sumitra ji would come to our house and sit with us and chat with us. This was 3 days a week or something. Then Dr. Adappa would come and pick her up, because they had to drive almost an hour to go to their home. And they had an old car that they were replacing with a new car. So they sold it was a station wagon, a little damaged in the front, but they sold it to me for $600. And my monthly stipend was only 400 something. And I said, I can't afford it. So they said, doesn't matter, you give us whenever you can. So I agreed to pay them $50 a month, and that's how I bought my first car. And it was very interesting, because when I bought the car, they came and dropped the car in my house and went away. And I know driving, from India, but in the US I didn't even have a license. I had not gotten a license yet. But I don't know, at that age, you're so daring. I took the car for a drive, and with no license, nothing. And of course came back safely, parked, and then next day I went for my license. And getting a license in Buffalo was an impossible task. It was a very racial place, and we were all failed, all of us. We failed at least 3 times before they would pass us, give us the license. So in between, I had gone for a small vacation, for a week's vacation to Virginia Tech Institute in Blacksburg, up in the hills. My friend Robi Rajan was there. So we visited him, and I told him about my problem with this licensing thing. He said, don't worry, come here, I'll go take you to Virginia, my driving license place, and they'll give it to you right away. So sure enough, we went there the next morning, and within an hour, I had to write a written exam, which I passed. Then they took me for a test. I passed, I came back and I got a license. So I was driving with Virginia license till I got my New York license in Buffalo after a month or something. So that was my experience there. Then I also became, in the second semester, I became the president of the Indian Student Association, and we organized movies there once a month or something. But by the end of the second semester, I had already got my fellowship admission in University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and I went and met Dr. Sheth, who was one of the pioneers in marketing, and he was very glad to accept me as his fellowship student. So I got about $500 fellowship. So when I was in Urbana, I was researching, doing a lot of research work for him. And then after the end of 1 year, my other friend called Nagarajan, he was doing his PhD in chemistry. His marriage was fixed in India, and that was the time I was also planning to go to India. We went together, and I think the day after or a couple of days later was his wedding in Chennai, Madras, and I had attended that wedding. And meanwhile, I was having a lot of pressure from my mom that I should get married. So I said, okay, look for a girl. And I had only like 5 weeks or something. So then, of course, in the next episode, I will talk about how I went and saw the girl, and we got married within 14 days and left the country in the next 10 days. We came back to Urbana. So that I will continue in my next episode, how my married life started and how I finished my MBA, and then my daughter was born and we went to New York because I got a job in New York. So I will cover all that in detail in the next episode.